Hello, my name is Geoff Grant, author of The Intentional Caregiver, and I'm here today with Karen Rigamonti. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Jeff. Um, Happy to be here with you and talk about some of the things that I do as well, which are developing a compassionate system of communication so that we can collaborate better and build healthier relationships and teams and organizations.
That's wonderful. So today we're talking about self-care and caregiving, one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah, I think it's a really big subject because, as you and I both are aware, we all need it because we're all caregivers in some way or form. Sometimes because we have loved ones like you and I both have, with people that have severe challenges in life and need our assistance. And sometimes it's just no matter what, as a parent, you're a caregiver of children. As a colleague, you're a caregiver of the rest of the people on your team or in your department. As a friend, you're the caregiver of your friend to make sure that they get what they need and they give you what you need, because it's always a give and a take. We learn by serving others.
It is. It is always a give and a take, and we cannot take care of others when our glass is empty. We have to continually practice self-care and to be able to serve others.
Yeah, you're so right. We need to refresh and re-energize ourselves in order to take care of other people as well. And that's the tricky thing because even though you and I are pretty good at it, none of us are perfect at it.
None of us are perfect, and somehow there's a feeling that I must serve the other person 100%. And I think guilt
Yeah,
comes in when we talk
go
about
ahead.
self-care.
Yeah, I
Like,
think what happens is we forget in that wanting to serve them and be there entirely for them, that we have our own needs that need addressing where we can't really do it. Kind of like when you're on a plane, and you have to put your oxygen on before you can assist those next to you.
I love that metaphor. And self, I'm a caregiver. I was a caregiver to my mother, which was, I didn't practice self-care. I didn't know what self-care was. And it did not go very well, the caregiving. It was sort of, I was on cruise control.
Hmm.
My, my wife got sick, and then I was on cruise control. And then through um, turn of events, I learned about caregiving. I learned about self-care. I learned about changing your perspectives. And there's nothing more important to me than self-care as a caregiver and as a human being, as a man.
I think that there's a lot of truth in that. And what I found, even when I wrote my gaps in healthcare between caregivers and care providers, which is on my website, drkaren.org, that um, what I noticed was that people very often neglect themselves. They gain all the weight, they don't exercise, they feel bad, they pay all their attention to the person they're caregiving in much the same way that we think we have to do everything for a job and never take a break and can go home and let go. And when we don't do that, we really are doing a disservice not only to ourselves but to those we're trying to help. We can be better at work and we can be better to those we give caregiving to when we break and really refresh our engines.
Yeah, before I practiced self-care, I noticed something. I was on the roller coaster that my wife was going through, her health roller coaster and her emotional roller coaster. And I would collude with her emotions, meaning that whatever emotions she had, I adopted. If she was feeling good, I felt good. When she was feeling sad, I would feel sad. And then I learned about emotional respect, which is I need to honor my own emotions. And when I
Mhm.
do that, I respect her emotions as well.
I think there's a lot of truth in that because what happens, I've discovered, is that we forget our own needs in trying to serve other people. And when we do that, we get hooked into their emotions and we become way more reactive rather than creative. And we're really meant to be creative, innovative people, whether it's at work or at home. And that allows us to serve them in the moment in the way they need it, rather than the way we've judged that they need it, because it's all a perspective. And that compassion piece really comes into play, that you have to start with compassion for yourself, though, in order to be compassionate to others.
That resonates with me, and that is so true. We're to be creative. We're meant to be creative, and when we're creative, we're curious. We ask more questions. You know, to the healthcare providers, and to the loved one as well, who's going through the medical journey. So, how how do you practice self-care in your life?
Well, I try to be very mindful of what it is I want to do each day. And as you know, sometimes that's successful and sometimes not, because there's so many distractions that go on. Um, the first thing I try to do is get rid of some of the clutter in my environment to help me keep the clutter arranged in a more orderly fashion in my brain. Um, and I'm still struggling with that because I've just moved back from being abroad for 5 years. So I'm still unpacking boxes. And so it's almost like worse before better, the storm that just hit. Um, and yet I know that's one of the things I have to allot time for in order to be able to then be able to take care of me, and for me to then serve my spouse, my children, my grandchildren, and my colleagues, because I can't be as efficient and effective without doing that. So my first thing is the environment I live in.
And let me just add, for those who don't know, you have a son with
Yeah,
intellectual disabilities.
yeah, he has three major disabilities. Intellectual is one of them. He's visually impaired and he's also autistic. So any one of those is a major disability, and he has three of them. And I almost look at two of them as barely disabilities, because the real restriction, of course, is the intellectual disability. I can't just do something for him and say, go off and take care of this. He always needs someone with him at all times. And fortunately, we do have people, but again, it's that compassionate communication that always seems to get in the way of him getting served in the best way for him.
And I think we all need to practice compassionate communication, whether we're caregivers or not. It, I think it's so important because it helps with, you get empathy, and to be compassionate, we inject a lot of love into the situation, and we're, being curious about somebody rather than, telling them what to do, or telling somebody how to care for your son or my wife.
And it's also learning how, if you're really compassionate, it's learning how to forgive them. Because what's interesting is we most of the time forgive ourselves when we mess up, and we all screw up from time to time. And we're very forgiving and understanding of ourselves, and yet we don't tend to do that to the same degree for other people. We judge them, we blame them, they didn't do this, that's why I can't do that, or why our loved one is suffering. And they're really also trying to do their best. And sometimes they just need to know how to do it or what they're doing wrong. And we can learn to say that in nicer ways and help them become aware of the situation. because inevitably we all struggle with the same things. And so that curiosity and creativity is also got to mix with the ability to not only see a different perspective, but to forgive others for not being perfect.
And forgiveness is a large part of caregiving, I feel. We like you said, we have to forgive ourselves first. Um, we have to forgive our loved ones. We have to forgive the healthcare system sometimes. And it's not, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do.
It isn't an easy, because what happens is we kind of push ourselves into that tunnel of, oh, I'm a victim. They're doing this to me. And if you were to kind of borrow from that, is that really true? 100% true, you would know that it isn't, that there's some truth to it. That's why we think it. But our thoughts and our attitudes very often decide how we're going to behave, but they're not necessarily based on true reality. It's, we say them so much to ourselves in our head that we begin to have a spin on it and believe it. And the only way to really know is to stop categorizing things and making assumptions, and to really ask questions and be curious, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the words that you said that resonates with me is categorize. And I noticed that when I was caring for my mother, like I would compartmentalize things because it would be a source of safety.
Right. I think that what I find is that people do this and put things in categories because way back in, say, prehistoric times, we were in a survival mode. When we were cavemen, or our ancestors, I should say, it was a matter of survival. But now there are times when we need that survival, but rarely. Most of the times it's not about surviving, it's about optimizing, but not surviving. We're all going to survive. I mean, there's some things we need to do, like in this world of COVID now. If we have social distancing and masking, we're going to improve our ability to survive. But it doesn't mean that we should neglect the connections. You and I are in two different states right now, and we're managing to connect and have meaningful conversations and even see each other. And that's really what it's all about. It's how to deepen relationships and connections rather than make assumptions and forget the safety and trust that we build with those connections.
And deepening relationships is and forging meaningful connections is so important as a caregiver. I know that I could not do this without the support that I have from the medical community, my friends and family especially, and it just goes better with support.
Yeah, I think we very often underestimate how we can support others and the support that we need. And it's very hard to ask for the support. And sometimes we actually have to force ourselves to do that, um, and clarify what it is we need. Because I know that sometimes I just need to vent what's going on in my feelings and my thoughts. And I may share that with a friend, colleague, my spouse, my children, but I need to do that. I don't need them to fix it. I need them just to listen and hold space for me.
Yeah, and I think when people hold space for us, that allows us to grow. I know that when I first started caregiving, I I thought I had the false belief that I could do this by myself. I could do it alone and everything would be fine. And it was dysfunctional.
Right, because it takes a team and it takes a whole community to do anything and do it well. Yes, you can do a given task by yourself, but to really have the best of all situations, you need to have other people in your tribe helping you. And and there are different ways of looking at that. But when it comes to healthcare and caregiving, you have the medical community, we have our friends and our family, and then we have other people that provide for us too, like the people in the grocery store or the pharmacy, or just the people in the bookstore that can provide something light to read, or the Netflix group to give us something fun to listen to. We need a little of everything, because I think you've told me before, and it's so true, there's a whole wheel to our life and we have to address it all.
We do. When we also, going back to compartmentalizing, we leave out, I think we leave out so much, especially us. We don't make room for our hearts to grow and to prosper.
Yeah,
I,
I think that that's a great point. I think we very often get stuck in that to-do list in our brain, and we forget to go back to our heart or even our gut and our instincts of what we really need, because we really do know what we need. We just forget to pay attention to it and ask for it.
yeah, it's like the logical brain takes over when we compartmentalize, which makes
Right.
sense.
It makes total sense, but we need to do that self-care. And so, Geoff, why don't you tell our audience like 3 tips that you do for self-care?
Oh, that would be great. So go exercising, going to the gym,
Hmm.
mental therapy. I'm a proud believer in therapy, and I've been going to therapy for 20 years. And because it just helps me clear my soul and my head. And the last thing is our spirit, or our we our spirit is not necessarily religious, but just clearing our heads, meditating, um, going for a walk in nature, just clearing our minds and our bodies. And
Yeah.
I'll add one more, which is this is
Hmm.
a personal growth one, which is coaching. I've been coached by a few people for about 15 years now, and it's an integral part of my self-care.
Yeah, I think that you touched on it. There's, the physical, which has to do with your diet, your exercise, and it comes in all different categories. You can do home exercise, taking a walk outside, lots of ways to do it and be taking care of both your balance, your strength, um, your flexibility, whatever it is you need in the moment, and your spirit through things like walking in nature, or through mindfulness and journaling, and your mind, reading and staying up with things, and your personal growth, because we need all these aspects to have full attention. And when we do them and do them for ourselves, then we can best help those we care give towards to get the same things taken care of. They may have more physical needs in the moment, but they still need all of the other things addressed as well. And even if you're bedridden, there are ways to take care of each and every one of these things.
Yes, there are. You're absolutely correct. I do want to mention my book, The Intentional Caregiver, which is available on Amazon. And I also want to mention my website, jeffgrantconsulting.com, and a free chapter of my book is available for downloading. And I think you want to mention your website.
Yeah, my website is drkaren.org, and it tells all about all the consulting and coaching and leadership training I do there, in the world of building healthier cultures where we respect ourselves. Or they can email me at krigamonti@gmail.com.
As always, I've greatly enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Yep. I do too, and I look forward to our next post. And these conversations will be live on each of our blogs if you want to go back and hear anything.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.